Hello, welcome to another episode of Story and Things. We are a bookish podcast. I'm your host, Yajaira.
And I'm your host, Cheli.
And we're still in spooky season.
It is. I love this season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's going to make sense chronologically, but a few episodes beforehand, we were both a sweating mess.
Yeah, we were.
Our state went through one of the worst heat waves ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed. It showed in both of our appearances how freaking hot it was.
I feel like we looked like we were melting.
Yeah. And
I was melting, actually.
do you blame us? There was one episode that we filmed for the guest list where I literally had to shower beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was so hot and I was so uncomfortable.
I showered right after that. I was like, I need to pull through a little bit longer, and then afterwards I'll shower.
I couldn't. It was so hot. But here we are, spooky season. It's finally cold. I'm in my long sleeve. You're in your protective gear. Yeah, she's wearing an Edward Cullen t-shirt.
The Batman, actually.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I didn't even notice the word!
You didn't notice?
No, I thought when you showed it to me, I was just like, oh, Twilight.
Oh, wow, Twilight. Love going back to our roots.
Love that. Oh my gosh. They're summoning him right now.
Pause?
That's like that's our Batman. That's how they call him.
That's our Batman.
El Batman. Yeah.
El hombre murciélago.
Whoa, dude, bilingual much? That's crazy. It is spooky season. Mm-hmm. And we have been reading thrillers. We've been reading horror, everything and everything in between.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, because we don't really talk much about our
stories,
thoughts or anything, our experiences reading it.
Yeah. We love coming on here and revealing it to each other.
But before that, I do want to know, was there anything, and you don't have to tell me any specific book, but anything in these reads that made you feel a certain way, like uncomfortable, or you had to put the book down, maybe say a little prayer, like anything like that?
I had to put on the Batman shirt.
Yeah,
Edward Cullen.
you're the Batman shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I did feel a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest, with some of these experiences, moments, but it's hard because, I don't know, I really typically don't get spooked. So sometimes when I'm reading something, I'm like, okay, I feel weird now. I feel weird.
You know what I think it is? Because you know me. I get spooked. I get spooked very easily. But for some reason, it's worse with books. And I think it's because with movies, at least I could look away.
Yeah.
You know, with books, you can't look away. Or you could skim, but I don't want to. So you can't escape that. And it's been fucking me up a little bit.
Really?
I'll be very honest. I read at work, or I have audiobooks at work that I listen to. And then I read at home. And usually I do that when I'm alone. And I live by myself too. So it hits a lot more. And then all of a sudden, all my freaking senses are intensified. So I can hear everything. And my cat just walks around all the time. Yeah. And it's so scary.
Yeah, no, your cat scares me sometimes. She shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
unannounced.
How dare she?
I know. It's like
she knows she has to knock first.
She's doing it on purpose. She knows I'm scared.
Gosh. Yeah, it is really spooky.
We were supposed to read more spooky stories.
Yeah.
And, October apparently only has 4 weeks.
Who would have thought?
5.
I know.
Not 5?
No.
Not 6?
Now that we're in this topic, why do months only have 31 days? I have a lot to do.
So some of them are going to be cut out, unfortunately.
We can always post them as bonus. Just middle things, Tuesday, maybe Thursday. I don't know. Are you too scared?
No.
Me too. I mean, no, I'm not either.
No, it's not that.
Weird.
Well, are we going to talk about the castle story?
I don't know. Because I feel like with horror, it's very hit or miss with me. So we did read We've Always Lived in this Castle.
In the Castle.
We've Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. And we were going to talk about it this time that we were filming. But I read it and I did not like it. What about you?
I didn't really like it either. I'm so sorry. I understand what the writing was going for, making things very ambiguous, just like something's always looming in the corner.
Yeah.
You're not really sure like what's happening because Mary Cat was kind of like an unreliable narrator too.
Yeah.
I understood what it was going for. I just didn't really like it either. I wasn't spooked at all in any of it.
You know me. I'm very like, I do like unreliable narrators. I don't mind it. I don't think this book was written well. Like, I was very confused through most of it. And, I did want to ask you a question about it. Kind of spoilers. We're not really going to talk about it. But why did she always mention about living in space?
I have no idea.
That was like a thing. And I was like, is she talking about like heaven? Like, was that her?
I think so. I think that's what it was going for. But I'm not really sure, to be honest.
It was weird. So instead, we're going to be talking about Penpal by Dathan Auerbach. Sorry. Let me say it again. Dathan Auerbach. And this was originally a creepypasta.
Which you read.
Which I read, I want to say like 5 years ago. Whoa. Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having a little bit of a crisis. No, I read it back in 2016. When was that? Oh
6
my
years
God.
ago. You read it 6 years ago.
Ew. Oh my God, how old am I?
How did you even find it?
So I read this when one of my friends, Charlene, shout out, was working a summer job and she didn't have anything to do. And I was at home. So I was consistently like texting her. And we just fell down a hole of like creepypastas. More her, because she had told me about this one and she was like, you need to read it. I just need someone to talk about it with. And so I read it, and I will say that it is different from the novel. But I do remember reading it, and we got really like invested in it. That was my first experience reading a creepypasta by myself, because I've always read them with other people next to me, like when we used to read creepypastas.
Together. Aw, I miss those days. We should do that again.
We should.
I love that we both looked at each other like, maybe not.
I did recently buy a Slender Man.
Why?
Like the creepypasta.
Why?
For my kids.
Oh.
But just kind of a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about stalking, murder,
death,
and potential sexual assault. Yeah. But let me tell you a bit about the story. I'm going to try to give you a spoiler-free version, just so that if you wanted to read it, you'll pause after my summary and then read it and then come back.
Yeah, so that you can hear us spoiling the entirety of this book.
But this book centers around our nameless main character who in kindergarten had a project called the Balloon Project, where they write a letter and send it off, and when the balloon eventually pops, the letter falls, and hopefully a nice stranger will write back to a kindergartner. It isn't until several years in his life passed where he realizes that there's been weird occurrences happening after that letter was sent. Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty much the summary of the story.
Yeah.
So if you're into creepypastas, if you're into spooky stories, unsettling things, we would definitely recommend this.
I do want to guess how you feel about this.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. I don't think you
Thank you so much.
I don't think you hate it. I think that the writing style of this book, though, I think you enjoyed that. Because I feel like you're one to like things that sound poetic. And at some points, the author did sound like that. I do think you like the characters, except for, the bad one.
Obviously.
But I do think you did like the characters and enjoy the story. I don't know how you felt about the ending at all. So I'm going to middle ground it and say that you gave it a 3.
Wow. A 3?
Because I can't. Like, I don't think you completely hated it, but I don't think this is going to be like, you're going to recommend it to your parents or something.
Why would I ever do that?
You might recommend it to your little brother. So maybe like a 3.1.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Only 0.1 higher.
I know.
Okay, so Cheli has history with this story.
6 years, apparently.
Yeah, that's happy anniversary.
I hate it.
I don't know how you feel about the story. I don't even know how you felt about the creepypasta, honestly. But because of, nostalgia, I'm just going to guess that you would give it a 4.5.
Do you not have anything to say? Because I did say little things about the creepypasta to you.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, okay.
Nothing substantial, though.
No, I try not to, but okay, 4.5.
Well, because I also don't know how you felt about the ending.
Okay.
Well, this ending. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. So why don't we talk about our characters? Oh, fun fact. When I read this story, because there's the main character has a best friend, and his name is Josh.
Oh, God.
So when I read this...
you told me this, I hated this so much.
I just named the main character Drake.
He doesn't have a name.
He doesn't have a name, but might as well be Drake.
But we also don't even know if it's a he.
Oh.
Did you not notice that? We don't know if it's a he or a she.
Oh, my God. It could have been me. That's so... Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much. Do you think that was on purpose so that...
Yeah.
Do you think it was a your name?
A YN fic?
A YN fic? It could have been, because I know a lot of creepypastas are written in a way where you can see yourself as the character. Wow, I never realized.
I think it was meant to invoke a more intense, unsettling feeling because you don't know exactly what the main character looks like. Whoa. Aside from the fact that the main character and Josh looked a little bit similar.
I do want to say, now that we're talking about characters, I did enjoy our main character. I thought that they were pretty funny. And it's funny because they speak about things so professionally and highly. You can tell that they have a really good vocabulary. But it's like talking about things they did in kindergarten. So it was like, me and Josh were fighting, and there were so many good rebuttals and everything, but I did throw the highest card that it was my idea first.
Exactly.
Therefore, I did win the argument.
Therefore, I am the reigning champion.
I thought it was funny, the way that the character spoke. And
I thought it was cute because you could really tell their age.
Yeah.
With the issues that they were having.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if I cut you off. The fact that you called him Drake and Josh, did it cut you off?
No, it's fine. Maybe you did, but it doesn't really matter. No. Honestly, it was a dumb joke. It's fine.
No. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's
if
fine.
I did.
It's fine. But I do like the main character. I do like that they're not perfect because there's a lot of flaws in our main character. You're right. We do not know the gender. I always just assumed it was a boy. But I kind of like that we don't know now because it kind of makes things hella different for me.
Yeah.
But I loved main character.
The nameless character.
5 out of 5 main character. Well, your name, so it's technically my name. So the character's name is Cheli, and it's Cheli and Josh.
Josh.
Whoa. Okay. What about you? What did you think of our main character?
I really liked the main character. I really liked that the main character was trying to figure out what happened in his childhood, and they're going backwards, trying to relive it. And then when we get to the end, I really liked him or her.
Yeah, it's hard. I think
I'm going to keep calling him though, because that's what I pictured.
That's
pictured
what I pictured too. But it could be anything, just to make sure that's stated. So the main character did have a best friend whose name was Josh. How did you feel about Josh?
Dude.
I know.
You know what's funny? I was reading this book and I was like, damn, I really love Josh. I hope nothing happens to him. Fuck. I was so sad about that. No, literally. I really love Josh because he was a real one. He was like, oh, you can't find your cat? Let's go.
Let's go.
Get our flashlight and we'll go.
And such a good feeling character because they told a lot of jokes. They were always so kind and they were so liked, or they were very liked by many people. So yeah, I really do like Josh. I do want to mention that I read this story 6 years ago as a creepypasta. I don't know if they added more to this story, but I feel like they did because I don't remember liking Josh as much as I do right now.
Really?
I feel like they added more to that character.
Do you think they made him
They made him a lot better because with the creepypasta and Josh's ending, I didn't really care. Like, I did, of course. It was sad, but there was a few extra things that the author added now that I think makes it more impactful. So I think Josh was really well written.
No, yeah, I agree. And aren't creepypastas generally a little bit shorter, too?
They can be long, and I felt like this one was long, but typically you don't really proofread creepypastas. You don't go back. It's just like, here's a long-ass paragraph. It's a creepypasta.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. Because it's always on that creepypasta website, too. Like, no one really cares about how it looks. It's always, you know. Because people write creepypastas that are very, like, scattered. And I feel like that's what Penpal was. And when it became a book, their agent probably told them, hey, you need to connect some of these thoughts. Because it did feel more connected this time around.
Really? Because I still felt like it was very scattered. Some of the timeline, overall, we love Josh.
Love him.
Done with that. Overall, I felt like the timeline was a little bit confusing to me because something would happen and then he would talk about it as in like, oh, in the present tense, right? Now that he's older. But then he would talk about the past in the next chapter. So he would be like, oh, I'm a second grader now. Nope, I'm a kindergarten now. And it's like, I was very confused with what is happening in what order.
I don't think you would have enjoyed the creepypasta.
I don't think I would have, honestly.
Because there was one thing that just I hated about the creepypasta.
What?
We can get to that. We can get to that as we get through the story.
So in the chapter Balloons, the main character is in kindergarten.
Yes.
And their teacher is doing this Penpal project, which Cheli already kind of described in the summary. But pretty much they write a letter, they attach it to a balloon, floats up, and then once it pops, it drops down, and, you know, obviously it has a return address. And everyone is hoping that whoever finds the letter is a nice, not creepy person who will respond to the kids. But the thing is that you kind of have to wait it out, right? It was like you wait throughout the year, and our main character wasn't getting a response until finally they received a response, and it was literally just a blurry Polaroid.
Okay, can I just say, this teacher, oh my God.
That's such a crazy idea.
It's so bad. Like, okay, first of all, if this is like, you work towards this the whole year, then I get it. Okay. But ain't no way a kindergartner writing a full ass sentence. Kindergartners cannot write a full sentence until like the last 2 months of school. Another thing. What if a stranger who's creepy gets the picture? You know, you can't just assume like, oh, you know, all community members in society are good. So I'm just going to send you a picture of like a 4-year-old and just really hope for the best.
I mean,
that's weird. That's so gross and weird. You could teach community another way. Go plant a tree. Like, I hate it.
Yeah, even when it was first described, I was just like, what the hell were you thinking? Letting a kindergarten, like, just put a picture out for anyone to see. That's so weird.
You know what? Oh my gosh. Sorry to derail. But if I was that kindergarten teacher, if you wanted to teach community, write a positive message on a paper and let it float away. And then
no return address.
Yeah, no return address. That'll just be like, wow, someone out there, we really made their day. And if they wanted to, they could have written the name of the school. And then if people wanted to write thank you notes, like, oh, if you received this letter, go ahead and write a thank you note. That's better. Like, you don't have to do it like that. Thank you. Doesn't take much effort.
That's a really good idea.
That would have been better instead of literally putting a picture of a kid.
Okay, but then we wouldn't have this story if that didn't happen.
But then so much good would have come out of that never happening too.
I agree. I agree.
So these letters get sent out, like you said, and our main character doesn't receive anything except for that blurry photo. And it's like, it's kind of, or let me say it again. I really like how this part was written because even though they were a little kid, they think about things so deeply. So they were like, you know, I did get something. I didn't want to show.
Oh, that's what I really
that I was upset. And they were like thinking, about even telling their parents too, about telling their mom. And it was like, she didn't really give me the response I wanted, but I reacted as if it was an okay response, that maybe he just doesn't like his handwriting. Okay, Mom, I agree. I do write well, but don't think that was it. It's funny. I thought it was really, you could really see what type of character we had, that they really do think things through and that they were upset.
Yeah, and because although the main character was happy to finally get a response, they were like, this is what they sent me?
And then
months in waiting?
It didn't even have a return address, like you said. So throughout the year, you know, they continue to get these letters from their pen pals. And it mentions that Josh, best friend Josh, did get the most photos from the rest of the students and got a total of like 2 Polaroids that were sent. But our main character got like 50 Polaroids.
Yeah.
But the reason why, you know, it wasn't as impactful in the classroom was because they were always blurry pictures.
Yeah. So it's like no one even cared. They're like, that's trash.
I thought it was kind of funny that our main character was like, so I put it in my collections drawer. Bitch, that was an everything drawer. That was like one of those drawers you just throw shit into.
It's the I don't even know what's in here drawer.
I thought that was really like cute the way it was mentioned. But it became unsettling really, really quick.
Right.
So our main character, vibing with Josh. Best boy.
Friends.
Best boy. And they both, for Christmas, get like a snow cone maker. Well, they both get it at separate times, but they both have a snow cone maker.
But the fact that their parents were like, let's just get them the same thing.
Well, no, remember, the main character got it first, and Josh, who's a little richer, asked for one, so got like a better one.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And it was funny because they were like, we got to start a business.
Obviously, at the ripe age of 5.
Yeah, and so they start a business. And they realized really quickly, oh my God, we don't know how to fucking make snow cones.
So they started the business first before figuring out how to make a snow cone.
Yeah, so they literally, someone would come and they'd put the ice like really badly on the paper and just put so much syrup that it like went on the people's head.
Oh, that's so cute though.
It is really cute. But they kept that business going strong, I think, for like 5 weeks. And near the end of their business, when they were splitting the money, because they would always half it, our main character realized that there was a dollar bill mixed in with, you know, their earnings. And it happened to be a dollar bill that said 4 stamps only written on it with a marker.
Which he had added on to his pen pal letter.
Yeah, because he wanted the pen pal to write back and was like, I'm going to give him $1.
First the stamps.
Yeah, so he was like, oh my gosh. It's crazy how money traveled around. Like, he, of course, bought the stamps. And it just traveled around and got back to me. That's so exciting. Isn't that exciting, Josh? And Josh is like, does not really care that much. So the main character is still excited, goes up to their room and shows Josh all of the pictures that the Polaroids, the pen pal had sent them. Because they're like, oh my gosh, my $1. These are the pictures they sent me. And Josh, I think, ends up going home. Like, they hung out for a little bit later, or a little bit longer, and then Josh went home. And our main character starts organizing the pictures right next to each other. And is realizing that they didn't really take much time to look at the pictures because they were blurry. They just assumed, you know, doesn't really matter. But what they start realizing is that in every picture, they're in it. So the main character is in these pictures. So the pen pal has been sending the main character pictures of themselves.
So they're just blurry.
And it made me so sad because I don't know if you've ever talked to a kindergartner, but when something scary happens, I like how the author described it with, I felt bad, but not scared bad. Bad, like, I did something and I'm going to get in trouble if I mention it. Yeah. And that's how kids do feel. Like, it's too much of a complex emotion for them to handle that they just feel like they're in trouble. And that's what our main character was feeling. And I like how it was described. So good.
That moment was really eerie to me because I didn't know that's where it was going. Honestly, with the Polaroids, I seriously thought it was just like, I'm just going to mess with this little kid and take a blurry picture of this tree.
Wait, did you not know what the story was about at all?
No, I didn't. You know what's funny? Wait, okay. Can I derail for like a second?
Yeah.
So our mutual friend, Melissa, and I I was telling her about the books that we were going to read.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned Penpal, she was like, oh, maybe it's a story about a guy whose pen pal is actually himself. It's like a parallel kind of thing. So that was like where my mind was at. So when this was happening, I was like, what is?
You know what?
What is this?
Save that thought too, because I actually thought that for a second. The first time I read it.
Oh, really?
I thought it was more of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You went through it, now you're going to continue it type of thing.
Yeah.
But I felt the same way when I read this. I was like, maybe they changed the ending. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
No, I really liked the book so far.
Okay. So it made you feel eerie because you started realizing what type of book it was.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, he actually has a stalker?
Yeah, but...
As a kindergarten?
And they handled it really well. They went up to their mom and they said, hey, Mom, look at these photos. And at first the mom wasn't listening. But then started to see like, oh my God, my kid's in these photos.
No, but the thing that I really liked about the writing, though, is that even though the child kind of knows what's happening, doesn't really know what's happening.
Yeah.
So then they describe it as all of a sudden she's on the phone with police. Like it's like they don't even know what's happening.
Mm-hmm. And during this phone call too, because that night, remember, Josh and the main character were hanging out, and they actually did go outside to play in this thing called the ditch, which is just where they throw sand at each other.
Yeah.
But when they were out there, Josh heard a metal whirring sound and described the sound as a robot. And the main character was like, yeah, I totally heard that robot too.
Yeah,
scary.
Weird.
But because they're kindergartners, didn't really think much into it. But when the main character told their mom, they noticed that in the mail that she was going through, there was another letter in there. Mm-hmm. And it was the picture of them hanging out in the ditch that had just happened. Mm-hmm. And when the character asked their mom, you know, what's going on? Why do you have to call the police about the photos? And it was because they noticed that it didn't have a postage stamp.
Yeah.
So that means it was hand delivered.
Yeah. So the person was really, really close. Mm-hmm. Whoever it was.
Yeah.
When that happened, it took me a second to understand what the book was trying to tell me. Because the chapter ended with, it had no return address and no address at all on it. So I was like, so how did it get there?
Is the post office that good?
Santa Claus?
Hello? Oh my God, imagine this is a Christmas story. It's how Santa Claus found Christmas. Actually. Oh my gosh.
I was really creeped out once it hit me.
I do want to backtrack a little bit, and it'll be super short. But after this happened, chronologically, because the story wasn't written chronologically, there was a shorter chapter at the beginning called Footsteps, which takes place after the balloon project, where our main character does mention that they feel like they sleepwalk because they have a bunk bed in their house, and sometimes when they fall asleep on the top bunk, they wake up on the bottom bunk, and they're just like,
how did this happen?
I don't know. Maybe I just forgot. And they don't really think much about it until one night they wake up in the middle of the woods as a kindergartner and is forced to walk home.
And is struggling to walk back home because it's dark and it's late and they don't know exactly what direction home is.
Yeah.
So the whole time you're feeling the anxiety that the kid is feeling as well because they started to circle the same area.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that their mentality, because they live next to the woods, their mom would let them play there, but mom would always say, you need to be back before it gets dark. So this little kid, in order to push them to get back before it gets dark, it's like, I'm just always going to think that something's following me. You know?
So that way he would move faster.
Yeah, and accidentally condition themselves to be scared of the dark and the woods at night. But I did want to mention that they did get home safely, but that was just something that was
mentioned.
Yeah,
out of order.
That was mentioned. Okay. So the next chapter was called Boxes, and the reason I mentioned the house lifting thing is because they end up getting a pet cat, and as soon as I think the main character starts kindergarten, and they have this cat for a very long time, and they notice that when the cat goes outside, it doesn't run around, it immediately goes under the house. And because the main character and their mom doesn't want to go under the house, they kind of just let it And anytime they need to get boxes back,
they'll just shake a little bit of food.
Yeah, or they'll just do the can opener sound
Mm-hmm.
and the cat comes running.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I mention that is because after the whole photos things that happens, the mom is like, okay, we are moving. Let's go ahead and start packing because, we got to move. And it's not she's not rushing, but she wants to leave. And it isn't until one day that they're moving boxes into the car that they realize that boxes, that's funny. They're moving things into the car and they realize that their cat boxes is still under the house. Yeah. So they had already packed the can opener. So it's both of them kind of like, okay, who's going to go under the house? And it's funny because our main character is like, I'm going to go look for the can opener over here. But it's really just stalling.
Yeah, because he's like, no way in hell I'm going down there. So, of course, the mom is like, fine, I'll go down there. So then she goes under the house, does not find boxes, but she like gets out very frantically and she's like, we're leaving.
I think she does find boxes. I think boxes comes running out, but she does look like
frantic.
She does look frantic.
I forgot all the cat, to be honest.
And she was like, you know what? We're not moving out in 2 weeks. We're moving out today.
We are moving
right now.
And let's go.
Yep.
They didn't even grab their stuff.
Yeah, they left a lot of things behind. So whatever they took was just whatever was already in the car. They immediately leave. And the main character doesn't think much about it for a very long time. Until I think they're in 5th grade. And their cat boxes goes missing. And they're so torn up about it. And they've already moved to the new house. So him and Josh, they don't go to the same school. But they do hang out every weekend.
Yeah, because their parents are super sweet. My parents would never.
I know, my parents. We left. You leave. You burn your bridges.
Make new friends, okay? You and him, not even real friends.
I didn't even like that friend that much, actually.
So basically, the parents of both kids make an effort to keep their relationship alive. So they'll constantly be switching around, who's staying in whose house this weekend and so on.
And for Christmas, the parents even pulled together to buy them like really good walkie-talkies.
Oh yeah, that was so sweet.
I always wanted that as a child.
Me too.
We had a walkie-talkie, but it really only did like 10 feet. So you can only talk to like, from my old room to my sister's room. That's how far we could talk. And my parents hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
They were like, we're going to destroy those walkie-talkies.
But boxes goes missing. And our main character is so torn up about it.
Well, our main character is actually with Josh. He's visiting.
At this time.
Yeah, he's visiting Josh. But his mom calls him or calls the home. And she tells him, just so you know, boxes has gone missing. And it's already been 2 days. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. And of course, our main character is thinking logically like, boxes left because he doesn't recognize the house. He obviously went back to the old house. And that old house is pretty close to where Josh is living. So he's like, want to go look for this cat or what? I don't remember exactly who propositions it. But
it's funny
they're
because
like,
it is our main character that says it. And Josh is already down. Josh is like, okay.
Flashlight in hand.
I know. So they do end up going with flashlights. They walk there. And
also, just to briefly mention, Josh's parents knew that our main character's mom did not want them anywhere near the woods. Like, she would threaten him. Like, if you go to the woods again, you're never going to see Josh again.
And they also said that our main character wasn't allowed to go back to their old home only because the owners were against it. Like, they didn't want to be bothered.
Yeah, fussy owners.
I know, but at this point of the story, they do go to the old house and the main characters,
mind you.
Yeah, through the woods. And they like hella got spooked by spiders. They fell in a ditch. They're all completely
spider
dirty.
part, I was so like, what the heck?
Yeah, that threw me off too. I don't remember that happening the first time I read it, but I thought he was, because it said he was sinking into like the pool float that they had crashed into when they were walking. I thought someone was pulling him.
So did I. I thought, or maybe this was just like a bad omen,
Yeah.
We know what's gonna happen.
That's sad. Oh my gosh.
When you think about it, yeah.
Yeah. But
they make it to the house.
And our main character goes under the house. Doesn't want to, but goes under the house to look for boxes. And Josh is out there like, you know what? I got a good idea. I'm just going to cover the exit from under the house so that I can look upstairs to see if boxes is there.
That way boxes can't escape and run away. So Josh is in the house now while our main character is down there, and they have their walkie-talkies, and they're like trying to communicate with each other. And then Josh is like, "Oh my God, I don't see the box of clothes.
Yeah.
They're hanging up actually."
Yeah, and they're mentioning this, and I just want to say, at this point of the story, my feeling so far, freaking A+ dialogue.
Yeah.
I fucking love Josh so much.
I really love him too.
And I feel like the dialogue made sense for their age. Like they were cussing like 5th graders do. They do cuss. And they were like joking around in ways that's like as 5th graders would.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really funny, even though it's very creepy at this point. But I thought it was really funny that Josh is walking around like, your clothes is hung up. Oh my God, I'm in your room. What the fuck is up with your ego, man? There's so many pictures of you.
Why do you have a whole shrine here?
No, I get it. I love you too, but hello? But
and the main character is so confused. Like, what are you talking about? No, my clothes are not hanging up. I put them in boxes.
And at that point, Josh cuts off. Like you can tell he stopped holding the call button. And you hear like footsteps, like Josh is running, and the main character is under the house, like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? And Josh mentions there's someone in here, and so
wasn't there something down there too, where he's under the house?
So while that's going on, our main character has a flashlight and is disgusted because they keep crashing into fur. And notices that there's like a lot of dead carcasses of like raccoons or whatever would crawl under a house. I really like how they described it too, because they were like, the carcasses were meshed together that it looked like a really bad chimera.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, that's disgusting. But our main character notices that there's like a blanket down there and bowls, like as if someone were living down there, along with cat food. And at first, our main character tries to rationalize it, like, oh, maybe my mom would put food down here so that boxes wouldn't run in the street and would just stay at home. But, you know, hearing someone live up there, trying to piece together things now as an adult, they're realizing that that's not the case.
Yeah, and that's why the mom had gotten so freaked out, because she saw the bowls and the blanket.
But this chapter ends, I'm just going to go through it quick. This chapter ends with Josh letting the main character out from underneath when they run. You know, they're getting out of there.
They're sprinting away. He drops his walkie-talkie.
Oh, yeah. Josh drops his walkie-talkie. But when they finally get away, Josh says that whoever was in there took a picture of him. And that's how that section ends. The main character ends up going home and is like so exhausted because they didn't sleep that night because they were so scared. And like, because they were so dirty and they didn't want their mom to figure out that they were out, they actually threw away their clothes and just took Josh's clothes. But even when they're driving out, the main character is like, oh, the trash can I threw it in is open.
Yeah.
And I didn't leave it open. So why is my clothes not in there? Type of thing. But when they end up going home, they throw themselves on the bed and they hear meowing under the bed. And they're like, oh my God. Boxes! You've been gone for 6 weeks, now you're here? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
But they look under the bed and the meowing is coming from the walkie-talkie.
Yeah, and by they, you mean the main character, right?
Yes.
I just don't want anyone to get confused that
Sorry,
it's both Josh and...
Trying to put like a gender fluid.
Yeah, no, I know. I get it. Yeah, so...
How did you feel at this point?
I was creeped out. I felt really nervous for the main character.
Yeah.
Again, had no idea in the direction that the story was going in. I never read the story. So I was really worried that the stalker was just getting closer and closer to him.
Yeah.
Because somehow he just ended up, or he, she, whatever, just ended up being near him all the time.
And I think this is the first time that the stalker makes themselves known that they're watching the main character. Like they had to press the walkie-talkie in order for the cat to meow into it. So now both the pen pal and the main character know that they know of each other.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really unsettling, that was like the first moment of that realization.
What I thought was really unsettling was realizing why they were such in a rush to move out of the house. Was the whole like, oh, someone was living underneath the house the whole time. And the thing is I wonder where was the pen pal when the mom went down there, you know?
The pen pal was probably, out in their day job, 9 to 5. Because I do think they were just a regular person.
I feel like they don't have a job.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
I think they did. I think the mom was just lucky that he wasn't down there when she checked.
Yeah, and also we should just state no one moved in, so it was still abandoned technically, besides the pen pal guy who would be in there.
Damn, props to the mom for staying strong through that. She just really left the situation and tried not to show her emotion to her son. Damn. That sucks. Oh my God.
That's a lot to keep in. Like someone's literally stalking your child. That's weird.
And this was, like I said, the characters experienced this when they were 5th graders. And 5th graders are typically 11 years old. So when they became 12 years old, that's when the main character and Josh's relationship kind of
had a little bit of a falling.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the creepypasta went. I don't know if the same thing happened. But when this was happening in the story, because it started off the chapter with him being with other people.
Yeah.
And he never really said at that point, like, oh, we're not talking anymore. He kind of just went through his day, and then you learn that they're not really talking anymore. I was so heartbroken. I was like, this guy, he went to this creepy ass house with you, and you guys aren't talking anymore?
And
I was pissed.
Like I said, this story is, or like you said, this story is out of order. So there is a section that comes after where they're showing the falling out. Yeah. So just them talking less, the conversations being awkward, and even their 12th birthday party, the main character invites Josh.
Oh wait, can I say something really fast? Yeah. Before we talk more about the falling out, I just want to say when they were kids, they did try to make a map together of the woods. So, because they wanted to map everything out. So they would like walk around the woods and map things out, and they'd be like, oh, we already went through this. And
that was something they started in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And it went on for a while up until like 1st grade, I think. And they got demotivated because one night when they had done it, they heard noise in the woods. And our main character was like, hello, who's out there? And Josh was like, oh my gosh, you think something's going to answer like that? So they both keep saying like different types of greetings, but they do in the wind hear like a small hello. And they run, but it ended up that there was a deer tracing them. Yeah. So they try to convince themselves like, oh, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, no, me neither. You're weird.
But that's a good thing to mention because later, like we said, they're having a falling out.
In present kind of time.
In present time, 6th-ish grade. And our main character has a birthday party, which they invite Josh to. And they're so excited to see Josh again. But when Josh gets there, they're very like distant and timid. And you can tell that Josh is feeling uncomfortable.
And maybe even feeling left out. Because it's been so long.
It's been so long. And our main character has other friends now. And it's sad because there's one point where it looks like Josh is having fun and is smiling. But then when our main character opens gifts, one of the gifts that the mom had given was walkie-talkies because they know that Josh had lost theirs. Yeah. So it was like a way to keep in contact with Josh. And the main character is so happy. But then when they look at Josh, Josh is like as white as a ghost and freaked out.
Also, Josh didn't bring a present. And he kept apologizing. He was like, oh, I'm really sorry I didn't bring you a present. And the main character was like, I'm just happy you're here.
Josh leaves. And like you said,
before he leaves. Oh. Before Josh leaves. Okay, wait. Well, first Josh walks away, calls his dad, and is like, pick me up. I'm scared. And then as he's like walking out, the main character goes after him. And he's like, you're leaving already? And Josh pretty much tells him like, I'll make it up to you. I'm gonna give you a gift, a birthday gift.
Next year.
And
the main character's still like, you don't need to give me anything. Like, you being here, that's my gift, But Josh is just like, I'm so sorry. It's just, I think I've been sleepwalking. Like, I don't know what's going on with me. And that's kind of how it ends there.
And it's really sad because the main character's like, I wanted to hug him, but I didn't want to make it weird.
So we just low high-fived, like, cool freaking sixth graders.
Yeah, because we're cool guys.
Yeah. See you later. Dab me up, but respectfully.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the last time that they see each other.
Yeah. I love Josh so much. Josh just reminds me of those kids that's like no wrong in their life. If something bad ever happens, they're very positive.
Sunshine.
Yes. And everyone loves Josh.
I freaking love Josh.
What a good friend.
Yeah, he's a true friend.
And the reason that the falling out even comes back in the mind of our main character is because when they're a freshman, they kind of start, high school. They start hanging out with these guys that really like to go to this dirt theater, which is a theater that just sells tickets dirt cheap type of thing. So you can go see a movie for like $1. And they crash into Josh's older sister, Veronica. Mm-hmm. And this sister has been mentioned before as being like really, really pretty. And everyone loves her.
And everyone has a crush on her.
Yeah.
And then our main character sees her and he's like, you know what? She is kind of cute.
She is kind of cute. So I'm going to shoot my shot.
And he shot it.
Yeah, he
shot it
did.
hard.
He did. And I thought he spoke very cute. It was very freshman boy type of cute. Where he was just like, I think, from this 5-minute conversation, you'd really like the movie next Saturday here, maybe.
And I'm going to be here too, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. It's kind of weird. I don't know how it works out.
So pretty much they plan a date.
Yeah, they plan a date.
And then he was like, oh my God, I don't even have her number. Wait, I technically do because it's Josh's number.
And he starts feeling super guilty because he's like...
He's going to dial it, but it's not for Josh. It's for Veronica. Mm-hmm. And he does dial it, and it's somebody else who answers.
Her name was Claire. Mm-hmm. Just like the number changed. So he mentions that he's going on a date with his mom. And his mom gets like, ooh, who are you going on a date
his mom?
with? No, to his mom.
Oh, I thought you said with his mom.
He mentions that he's going on a date to his mom. And his mom is like, ooh, who are you going on a date with? Who's this girl? And he does mention that it's Veronica. And she's immediately like, nope, no, you can't go. You can't go. You're just never, no, you're not going to go. And he's so like shook by that.
He's like, why not?
Why not? Mom, I love her! No, but he gets very angry and decides that he's going to sneak out to see her. And so when he sneaks out on this date, he like uses a friend as like a safety thing. Like, I'm going to go to your house, but I'm actually going on this date. The date goes so well, but in this date, he does figure out from Veronica that Josh ran away when he was around 13, which is after our main character's 12th birthday party. And he's really sad about it, but also kind of angry with Josh. Like, oh my gosh, like, how could he let this happen to himself? Just a lot of conflicting emotions. But this date is going well. They're walking together. And our main character is like, oh my God, I'm going to kiss her. And this is going to be my first kiss. I'm a little embarrassed.
How about some men?
But they go to the restroom first. And just to mention, they were the only ones who left the theater who were still there. But there was two cars.
The two of them.
Yeah, but there were 2 cars in the parking lot. One that belonged to Veronica and just a random car that was there.
So Veronica's by her car.
Yeah.
And our main character's like, oh, I'm just going to pee real fast. Be back in like two shakes.
And he thinks it's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah,
Love
he thinks he's a comedic genius. And he walks off. And then he hears
a crash. And he looks for it. Like, he's looking for the crash, but he's like, I don't see it anywhere. But when he comes back, Veronica is on the floor and her body is
bent.
Fucked.
All over the place.
She has bones sticking out of her body.
She's covered in her blood.
Her jaw's completely broken. Everything is fucked up. And he immediately calls, 911, the police. And they take her.
And he's with her too, and it sucks because he has her phone and it's ringing, and it's obviously the parents, but he's like, he's too nervous to answer, so he doesn't answer.
Yeah, and when the parents do eventually come, and his mom comes too, he does sneak the phone back into Veronica's purse because he doesn't want to have that conversation of like, oh, I had the phone with me.
Yeah. So Veronica's in the hospital, and he goes in there, he tries to talk to her, and then, oh my God, wait. Actually, I'm blanking out. What happens after that? He's like...
So he leaves her and is like, here's your phone. Text me if you need anything. And he gets a text when he gets home and it says, I don't want you to see me anymore. Mm-hmm. But then they continue to text. Mm-hmm. And at first it's like, oh my gosh, not love Veronica, but like, you know, I really enjoy this conversation I'm having with her. But then she like freaking throws an I love you at him. And he's like,
oh my God, I think I'm in love.
And they text like that a lot. Mm-hmm. She's like going hard. It's like, I want to be with you. I want the rest of our lives to be like together, and just throwing all this stuff at him. And I don't remember why, but the main character does mention, because Veronica and him plan a date. Mm-hmm. And
she doesn't show up.
She doesn't show up. And instead, there's just like a man who sits in that seat that he was saving for Veronica. So then he gets home and he's super upset and he tells his mom about the date and how it didn't go well. And it's like, Veronica died like 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And the day that you visited her last, that was the day she died. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, but I've been texting her. I have her number. And it's like, no, her phone went missing. Like the parents said that the phone went missing. Mm-hmm. So then it's like, oh, who the fuck was texting then?
Who was I telling I love you to then?
Hello? But
yeah.
I don't think this was in the creepypasta when I read it. I don't think Veronica was a character in the creepypasta. Mm. I love that they added her. I love that there was really nothing bad about her, like at all. She was vibing.
And she was just a victim of circumstance.
She really was.
Poor girl.
Because, okay, just to understand, she was ran over out of jealousy.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Damn.
And brutally, too. Dang, her whole body was twisted. That's insane.
That's fucked up.
But let's go through the ending a little bit faster.
Okay.
So after Veronica, we learn about what happened with Josh. How did it come up again?
Well, it's because our main character, the way that they're telling this story, they're recounting it as an adult. Mm-hmm. So they keep mentioning like, I didn't know about this until my mom told me. So then the closing of the story is so much like, I want to tell you about my friend Josh and how amazing they were. Mm-hmm. And they talk about how much they love Josh and like all the things Josh would do with them. And they do mention that when Veronica died, the mom went very unstable. Mm-hmm. So the dad had to get construction jobs that were nearby. And there was an instance where there was a man who was like, hey, can you like flatten out this dirt over here?
For $100.
And he's like, yeah,
flatten it out.
You know, sure. And so when he's flattening it out, he realizes that there's like a soft spot. And in order to fix that, you kind of have to like press down the dirt. Mm-hmm. So he was going to dig it out first, figure out how big the hole was, and then fill it in. Mm-hmm. But when he's digging out the very soft dirt, he hits something hard and realizes that there's like a 4x7 like box down there. Mm-hmm. And when they open it, the dad realizes that it's his son Josh who is down there, and immediately calls the main character's mom, which at first is kind of like a weird thing to do. Like you would think they'd call someone else,
like the police.
But when the main character's mom gets there, they realize that the reason the dad called was because because Josh is in there and there's a photo of our main character as a kid in there too. Mm-hmm. And it takes a while to realize that, or the main character kind of describes it as like, yes, Josh is in there, but when you look back, there was someone else in there too. Mm-hmm. And it was a man who was like on top of Josh, kind of cradling him.
Mm-hmm. And smiling.
Yeah, and smiling. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, the part where the dad tried to pull that guy out, but accidentally lost his grip. And when he dropped the man's body on top of Josh's body kind of let out a last breath. Mm-hmm. Oh, God, know. That fucked me up.
That fucked me up, too. I was like, oh, my God, this is so creepy.
It is. And
wasn't Josh also wearing the clothes of our main character?
Yeah.
Didn't they describe it as, he was wearing clothes that were too small on him?
Yeah, and it's assumed, it was written different in the creepypasta, which I can explain later, but it's assumed that was the clothes that was in the old house. Mm-hmm. He was wearing the main character's old clothes, and Josh and the main character were always described as identical, except Josh was blonde and the main character had dark brown hair.
Mm-hmm.
But this Josh that they found in this box
Had dark hair. Had
his hair dyed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so sad because our story ends. I'm just going to speed through it. Our story ends with our main character saying goodbye to their mom. Thank you for telling me the story. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. But they already know that the damage in their relationship is like irreparable.
Because it took a lot out of the mom to pretty much relay everything that was happening since our main character was in kinder.
Yep. So when our character leaves, the only question in his head is like, why was it Josh? Did it just happen to be that this man was too scared to come to me? Like, it should have been me in kindergarten and this would have never happened. And it ends with him just going like, I love Josh. I miss him so much. I will always miss him. He was an adventure. He was this, and he was also my friend. And the last page, I don't know if you read the same ebook I did, but the last page is like a police report on Josh.
No, I didn't see that.
And that fucked me up too.
Really?
The police report's like very unsettling.
Really? I didn't see that. I'm glad I didn't see that. I was already unsettled.
From what I see, or from what I saw, I think the police report told the entirety of the main character's story, like what what was happening, but as if it happened to Josh. So the main character was like disconnected from it.
And
so
it had turned over to Josh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Why would he be?
That.
Why would he be obsessed with this guy and then kill this guy? The thing that you didn't mention though was that Josh had been completing their map.
Yeah, because when Josh was in there, they looked through the body and they were taking out things that was like in their pockets. And the pen pal, had a paper that was just the drawing of him and the main character holding hands. Meanwhile, in Josh's pockets, it didn't mean much to the parents. But the mom was like, yeah, he had like a drawn map in his pocket. And the main character was like, I really hope he didn't die trying to complete that map for me.
And he did.
He did.
Poor Josh.
I know. That ending hit. That ending with him just describing Josh being a good friend. You know, before we started this episode and you told me to do the summary, like at the very beginning, I kind of wanted to describe it like, this is a story about friendship. It really is, though.
It is. It makes me really sad, though, because I freaking knew Josh was too good. Too good, too pure for this world for something bad not to happen to him. When that happened, though, I was so sad, like literally depressed. I was like, I can't believe he died so brutally.
Yeah, because it's described, too, that when they were buried, because, by the way, the person who asked the dad to fill the dirt was the man who was in the box, meaning that the pen pal had asked him to fill that dirt and buried himself alive with Josh. So when they were both in there, because Josh had a lot of blood on him and the pen pal didn't have his like throat, so it's assumed that Josh bit the man and the man died on top of him. But because Josh was so small,
the man was so big,
he couldn't get out. So it's assumed that Josh was alive for a very long time and just slowly died in there.
Which just makes it even more sad.
Oh my God. It's so...
Can I ask you, how was the ending in the creepypasta?
To those of you who read the creepypasta, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. It's been 6 years. So, in the creepypasta, if I remember correctly, they did go in the house. Like, I think our main character did go in the house. Because I assumed that Josh lived in a cage. Because I think they found a cage in the house. And in that cage was, like, basically the main character's clothes. And hella pictures of Josh everywhere. So it's assumed that the main character was there. But the sister didn't exist. And the ending explaining the dirt being flattened and the pen pal doing that didn't exist. So it just ended with like, oh, we opened it and the pen pal and Josh were in there. But it never explained who buried them. So that's why I didn't like the ending, because I was like, how is the pen pal in there? Because it didn't explain there being a handle on the inside.
Okay.
So confused me hella when Josh died.
They did die then together.
They did die together, but it just didn't explain why. Like, it didn't have that backstory of the map. It didn't have the backstory of the falling out. Mm-hmm. It was just like, oh, Josh died. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think there was that 3-year gap. I think Josh just died.
Like as a child? Mm-hmm. That's sad.
Yeah. But I think it was explained way better in this story. Mm-hmm. Like I told you, I think it was off camera, I cared more about Josh's death now. Don't get me wrong, I did care about it the first time too, but it was just so confusing to me.
Mm-hmm. Therefore, you couldn't really mourn for him because you were too busy questioning it.
And fuck, like when the story ended in the creepypasta, if I remember correctly, I think it ended with like the body being lifted off and them seeing that the pen pal was just a regular guy, just like they did in this story. He was just a regular man. Mm-hmm. And he was smiling and Josh was in there and he was dressed like the main character and it ended. Like there was no other explanation or anything.
Our main character didn't even react.
No.
Or couldn't even react.
It just ended. So I really appreciate that our main character took, like, this whole story was just like a long-winded way to say, like, I fucking love my best friend. Mm-hmm. I'm so upset.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
This isn't me saying how my rating is gonna go. Okay?
But it is.
I just want to say that when I first finished the story, I was mad. And I thought to myself, this is what I don't like about horror movies, is that they're always so fucking depressing.
They are.
It's like, they're more sad than scary. I mean, I'm scared now, and I'm scared thinking about it. Yeah. But at the time, experiencing it, I don't think I was as scared as I am, just thinking about, like, what happened.
I think because it didn't hit me as much as it did the first time I read it. I do remember the first time I read it, I did feel like, wow, Josh shouldn't have died. Josh should have lived. And that's the exact same way I felt about, what was his name? Eddie from It.
Stranger Things. Thank you.
Eddie from It.
No.
Pennywise the movie, too.
I remember you when you told me that. Upset. And it's so weird because I agree with you 100%. But when I watched it, I just kind of took it as face value. And I was like, okay, that's really sad.
But I feel like...
unnecessary, but sad.
Exactly. And I feel like sometimes horror movies just kill the character you love the most just to get a reaction out of you. Because that character also should have lived.
Yeah. No, I agree. He had no reason to die.
Thank you.
Josh had no reason to die either.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, overall, it was a really good closing to the story, though.
Mm-hmm. I feel bad for the mom, though.
Yeah,
she was so traumatized.
She was
with reliving everything,
and the fact she really wanted to tell Josh's parents too about this to kind of give them closure, but she was like,
she felt bad.
I'm not gonna tell them. And it was kind of her fault in a way. She should have told someone. But then it all goes back to the kindergarten teacher who couldn't make a good lesson. You could I told you a good lesson. That could have been it.
No, I agree. Your lesson is so much better.
I know. Thank you.
I just came up with it.
Thank you.
So, what did you want to talk about?
You know what I didn't understand?
What?
I don't know if it's just my ebook or if yours look the same way. But when it ends and he's talking about Josh, he's starting to say, we were explorers, we were adventurers, we were friends. And then the last page says, the end will take care of itself.
I didn't get that part either, to be honest.
The end will take care of itself.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I remember getting to that and thinking to myself, what the fuck? Maybe that was a mistake.
Wait, hold on. Let me use my 2 brain cells. The end,
we were friends. The end will take care of itself. We're still friends no matter what.
Or were they talking about the last page, which was the police report? This is what I decided to do. Sorry. The end, this whole thing that happened will just end my chapter.
Is it giving his life more meaning because the police report is insinuating that, he was actually obsessed with Josh? the
and
whole
it kind
time.
of gives it like his death mattered.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just a meaningless death, but in reality, it kind of was.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I mean, they were also described to kind of look like each other. So I wasn't sure if the pen pal was like, you know what? I'm going to just settle for this guy. He lives closer.
I don't know.
I didn't understand that.
It was also assumed, by the way, and most likely true, that when Veronica was hit, Josh was in the car.
What? Why?
Because Josh was missing for 3 years, and of course the pen pal wouldn't leave Josh alone. And there's a point where the main character is like, I'm going to pretend that the pen pal didn't exist. I'm going to pretend that this didn't exist. I'm going to pretend that Josh wasn't in the car when Veronica was hit. So he's making like assumptions, but it's like probably a pretty accurate assumption that Josh was there. Because Josh was still alive at this time.
You know what's weird? I think I already mentioned it, but the timeline just kind of confuses me. So I wasn't sure exactly when Josh died. So Josh didn't die until after Veronica?
Yeah.
That's so
Josh
weird.
was alive for 3 years. That's why I said trigger warning.
But like, what was he doing this whole time?
Exactly. That's why I said trigger warning, sexual assault assumptions. Because he was living with the pen pal for 3 years. And like I said, in the creepypasta, he was living in a cage.
But that didn't happen in the book.
No, but it's probably taken out because it's like fucked up. I think a lot of this whole story is fucked up, but I think the sexual assault implications were pulled out of this story because they didn't want
too much.
Yeah, they didn't want to include that. But I do think that it was implied more in the creepypasta.
I don't want to think that.
The way that the book or the creepypasta described it too was that the clothes fit really, really tight.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagined him literally wearing like first grade clothes as like a sixth grader.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably like losing circulation wearing it.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, well, I hate that.
I hate it too. Ugh. I like how throughout this story too, just like shout out to the writing, because anytime something very, very scary happened, the author kind of pulled back and was like, our minds tend to forget things that we think are impossible to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we think of something super scary, our minds really want to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine that it's not happening, but it is. And I really like that the character did that because it kind of gave me a chance to like sit with the fact that something really bad had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So when Josh was being chased in the house, the old house, he did that. When Veronica was hit, he did that. And it was just like a moment of like, yeah, take this time to reflect on what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
It like made it hit more. I really like the writing in this story.
I agree. I liked it too.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really good. I still don't love the timeline of everything, but...
Do you think that stories should be written chronologically? Like, are there stories? No?
No, I don't think so. It's just that it just kept going back and forth. Like, we would be in kinder, and then second, then present, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I would just kind of get lost.
Yeah, it didn't really explain what grade they were in either, like at the very beginning. So you just assume their age. And then it was like, yeah, but in kindergarten. And it's like, oh.
Oh, we're back to kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sucked that it happened mostly in like the first years of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
And Josh never really knew also what was happening with him. Like, I think he had a sense, but he didn't really know.
Mm-hmm. And it sucked too because if Josh was kidnapped at 13 and lived with the person for 3 years, I forget the number he said, but I think our main character described it as like he was gone for a third of his life. Like he lost a good chunk of his life just being there with the pen pal. Mm-hmm.
Why do you think he was sleepwalking though?
I don't think he was. I think the pen pal did move on and was like, my thoughts were that the pen pal was like, I love main characters so much, but I'm just so nervous and I don't want them to be what I don't want them to ruin what I think they are. So I'm just going to settle for someone I'm okay with hurting. And I think they started to fuck around with Josh and then took him because it's like, it didn't mean too much to him. At least it was someone who looked like the person they wanted.
And maybe that's why he was also distant for that
because he
time.
was experiencing those things.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems like someone who would actually say something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So probably was talking about it with their parents and then was taken. So I don't think they were actually sleepwalking. What are your thoughts? That's how I thought it went down.
I wasn't sure. I mean, because then what would the point of them looking similar matter?
Just because they settled. That was it. It was just that the pen pal settled.
Yeah, but then why was he smiling while holding him?
Well, he had the picture, so he could have imagined.
But it wasn't him, though.
That's what I hated. That's what I hated when I
not
first read
him.
it. Because I think, allegedly.
We're not the author.
When I read the creepypasta 6 years ago, remember, it's been a long time. My mind's not the same as it used to be. When I read it, I was also angry at that. I was like, so you made this whole story up just for him to like settle for someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything he's done to this point shows me that he's willing to do more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he killed Veronica.
The poor girl.
And I don't think it ever labeled him as a killer until that point. Well, no, it did in the novel, but in the creepypasta it didn't, because that old lady that he killed too, there was an old lady, she died, wasn't in the creepypasta.
Why did she die again? I forgot.
Just because he was there and had a relationship with the main character.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, like, that didn't really, like, register in
But
my
also I think she was killed because since she had Alzheimer's, it wasn't, like, he didn't want her to accidentally say something.
Mm-hmm. She wouldn't. Please.
Yeah, people wouldn't believe her, but I think he was just being safe.
Mm-hmm. The poor girl. I feel so bad for her.
I know. But what was I going to say? Yeah, when I had first read this story, I hated the ending because I thought that the idea of him settling was very unrealistic to the character they were trying to build. Mm-hmm. But it makes a little more sense now, only because it did mention they looked alike more than once. Mm-hmm. And it was just, in a way, showing that he wasn't strong enough to hurt the person he loved, which is super fucked up.
He allegedly loved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess I can kind of understand that. And I mean, he is unhinged, obviously. Yeah. So is there any, like, rationality in that brain? I doubt it.
Yeah. Fuck, poor Josh.
I feel so bad for Josh.
It kind of reminds me of that one movie. Oh my gosh, I don't remember the name, but I know you'll know what it is. It's the movie where a friend goes missing because they become friends with someone else through webcam. And the best friend is like, I gotta look for her. I know that the person who was on webcam with her was the last person she was going to meet up with. And it like goes on the news and stuff. So then the best friend gets kidnapped. And it sucks because you're seeing this all as like a video diary. So you're seeing the rest of her story as the person who kidnapped her taking a video of her. Mm. But she ends up in the place where her best friend was. And she keeps asking like, where's my best friend? Where's my best friend? And the guy's like, you know what? You could leave. Like, after fucking around with her for so long, I was like, you could leave. But before you leave, can you open that barrel for me? Can you open it, please? And her best friend was in there. And the movie ends with 15 uninterrupted, unedited minutes of, like, the barrel being rolled out to, like, basically, like, a dirt place. And he's digging a hole. And you don't see his face. You just see him digging a hole. And the whole time you can hear the main character, which was the girl looking for her best friend, inside the barrel. So it's assumed that they're both in there. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I won't tell anyone. Please, please, for 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then the barrel is put in the dirt. And it's, in that 15 minutes, him also digging the hole.
Damn. I don't remember this movie.
It's a fucked up movie. It was low budget. Mm-hmm. So they did film it in 3 days. So it was very, very low budget. Oh, but it was very unsettling, and that's the same feeling I got when I read the ending the first time for this creepypasta. The feeling of like, oh, I don't want to like exist by myself right now. I want to go out. Like I can't.
I don't want to even have friends because I'm scared.
I'm scared right now.
Overall, I thought the story was just more heartbreaking than scary.
It was heartbreaking. The way it was written was really good to show that.
Can I just say that I really appreciate the fact that the main character didn't have a name or a gender, and also the fact that the pen pal also didn't have a name. It kind of reminded me of the movie Open House. Have you seen it?
Mm-mm.
It's with that one guy that was in 13 Reasons Why.
Clay?
Yeah, that guy. And pretty much you see this family and they have an open house because they're trying to sell it. I don't remember it exactly,
Yeah.
but the camera is always at an angle where they're being watched. So it's like through a little slit of the door. Okay. So you could just constantly watching them. So you know that someone is watching them.
Yeah.
And the camera isn't always like that, but every now and then it is. And they don't know that there's someone in the house the entire time until the end of the movie when it's too late. That's what it reminded me of, because this person doesn't have an identity because it doesn't matter who this person is. And I really liked that. I also really like when you can just like put yourself in there,
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
There was a part of me that wanted the Penpal, to be the police officer at the beginning. Because, it was described as like someone with a scar. They looked really scary. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it was just someone who was a normal looking guy is like so fucked up.
I know.
Because anyone could do that.
Yeah. You think it's going to look like a monster, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Josh.
I know. Don't cry.
But yeah.
But I think we're done.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to know how you felt about the story. I'm like dying to know. Oh my gosh.
I really liked this story. Yes, in the beginning it was rough. I was pissed. But, discussing it with you, I think I've appreciated it more. I don't think that I loved the writing when I read it. But now, I don't know. There's something about it that I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And I loved the main character. As I already said, I love that they didn't have like an actual identity, as well as the pen pal. I thought it was creepy. Now thinking about it, it's depressing. I would love to see this as a movie.
Yeah. I wonder how it would be done though. Like if it would bring it justice, Mm-hmm.
I think they should do what Open House did, where it's like you're constantly being watched through a fucking slit. The ones where the ones where like you can hear someone breathing. Oh, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like they're behind the camera. That. I think that would be.
We should direct it.
Right now. Dathan, get him on the line. And as I already said, I loved Josh. I really liked the story. I think I would give it a 5 out of 5. I thought it was really good.
Damn, dude.
I love this story. I know.
Can I say something?
Yeah. Say it.
You mentioned earlier today that you were talking to your mom about our podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And do you want to describe that?
Yeah. So the other day, I was talking to my mom about House of Dragon because I'm trying to convince her to watch it. And I was telling her that Cheli and I are going to talk about it. Oh, shit. Is this going to be...
By the way.
Is this going to be after? I don't even know if this is going to be after or before. Doesn't matter.
This might come before.
No, this is after.
Whoa. We already talked about it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was telling my mom about the podcast, and I was telling her, yeah, Cheli and I, we don't like to tell each other how we feel about the story until we start filming, because we want to keep it interesting. We don't want each other to influence the other person. And then she was like, but then I feel like whoever speaks about it first can influence the one who speaks about it second. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I hope we don't. But sometimes Cheli brings up a good point.
That's what I was going to say. And sometimes you bring up a really good point. And I don't, like, going into our conversations, I never have a rating in my head.
Neither do I.
Okay, good. I don't have anything. It's not until we get to the end where I'm just like, okay, after everything we've talked about, how do I feel about it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I shouldn't say never. There are some
for fives.
There are some, honestly, there are some of them where I'm like, no, this is a freaking one. Nothing's going to change my mind.
Yes. But I try to give benefit of the doubt when we talk about it. Like, we try to remain very impartial. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, like, sometimes you'll bring something up or I'll bring something up that kind of sways me a little.
Uh-huh. Because then I'm like, damn, I didn't even think about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really like this story. I'd give it a 5 out of 5. It broke my heart, though.
Wow.
We're like, honest.
I don't know what episode this is going to be, but we're in the 3rd season pretty early on, and you're already giving 5?
Girl, I don't know what's happening this season. I'm so generous. In a season, I mean like fall season, okay?
Yeah.
There's so many books I read where I was like, You get a 5.
You get a 5. Look under your chair.
I don't know. I've been reading hits. I don't know what to tell you.
That's crazy. When I first read this as a creepypasta, I think I would have given it a 3. I loved it, but then that ending, like, it just didn't make sense to me. So going into this, I thought I was going to be reading the exact same thing until, like, the first chapter that was called Footsteps, and that whole thing, him ending up outside and having to walk home. That wasn't in the story, so I was like, am I reading the same story? I'm confused. But then when they said Josh, I knew I was in the right story.
You were like, never forget.
But I think that this as a novel did a better job gripping me. Like, I cared about all the characters. And I also sympathized with all the characters. Like, I didn't agree with everything the mom did, but I do understand why she did it.
Same
for, like, any of the parents, anyone that was in this story, even our main character with the mistakes that they would make. They did it because, I mean, look at their age, look at what they went through, and it just made sense. I really, really loved Josh, and I felt that even though that he died, and even though I wanted him to live, I do think it was like a good, like a bitter ending to this story, but it just kind of had to happen like that. I think I'm going to give it I don't know. I think I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5 as well.
Wow, really?
It's either that or like a 4.5 because of nostalgia.
I told you. It's the nostalgia.
It did hit a lot better this time.
No, yeah. I agree. Because when I first finished it, I probably wouldn't have given it a 5. I was too angry.
Because you were here while I was reading it, by the way, I didn't get as scared. But I think reading this alone would kind of fuck me up. I don't want to read this type of stuff alone.
I don't either. It's anything with stalking. I'm like, please.
No.
And a child, please.
Oh, God, yeah. It's disgusting. But I did really like this story. I think it would do really well as a movie if it were filmed the way you said.
I am keeping my fingers crossed. Dathan, call me. I have ideas.
Okay, well, while you're pulling up a dice, I just want to say thank you for everyone who listens to our episode in audio form, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or anywhere you get your podcasts on. Super sweet of you. If you can leave a rating.
A 5, please.
A 5.
Just that would mean the world to us.
Yeah, so we can all match. So 5, 5, and 5.
But also because I think we would be promoted more just generally. Yeah. If we would receive more high ratings.
Yeah, and by the way, shout out to people who have rated us, who've been giving us 5s. That's so sweet of you.
Seriously, it's so kind of you.
That means a lot. So please take a moment right now to give us a 5 because that's going to make such a difference. If you also want to leave a review, tell us how you thought about this story. I feel like for those of you who just like to listen to us and not read the story, I hope that we did, like, we gave it justice.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully it motivated you to actually want to listen to it or read it.
For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. If you can like, comment, subscribe, and also hit the notification bell because it does let you know when we post. We're trying to catch up with our posting.
We're behind still, though.
It's okay,
on YouTube.
I feel like it's still nice to every once in a while get a notification for our videos. But thank you so much for those of you who do that. If you can please tell your friends, family, loved ones, hated ones,
enemies, frenemies,
people who are like Josh in your life. If you can please tell them about us, that would really help because the best way to get exposure is through word of mouth. So at the end of our episodes, we like to roll a dice. And if it lands on an even number, we read a positive review of this story off of Goodreads. If it lands on an odd number, we read a negative review off of Goodreads. We do not talk about these reviews. We do not connect or relate or agree with these or disagree with these reviews.
Yeah, we're just leaving it in the air.
Yeah.
A little conversation starter.
Maybe.
For you.
Yeah, not for us. We don't talk about this. We don't talk after we turn off the camera.
No. We just get filed away.
Okay, so go ahead, roll a dice.
Okay. I'm doing this off of an app, okay? I'm opening it right now.
Yeah.
This was the last thing I got. I'm sorry.
A 6, a positive.
Oh, wow. All right, so I'm going to read a review off of Goodreads written by Rochelle. And it starts off with a quote from the story, which you actually brought up. And the quote starts like this. Our minds work hard to avoid dissonance. If we hold a belief strongly enough, our minds will forcefully reject conflicting evidence so that we can maintain the integrity of our understanding of the world. End quote. And they added on, wow, this one is dark and intense. Each chapter is absorbing and eerie, and you truly come to worry that what may happen to these characters. I devoured it in 2 sittings because I just had to know. Highly recommended for horror lovers. Just watch out for that ending. It's a doozy.
Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
I kind of want to watch Open House now that you mentioned it.
No, you don't.
I don't.
You don't want to watch Open House.
Why not?
Because you're going to get spooked.
You know, my house is open. What the fuck is it?
Stop it.
I'm kidding. Okay, let's go watch it. Oh, was that the only episode we were filming? Take off my shirt. Well, I'll wait.